We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in the film study. And each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at Shane Haff NFL. I'm joined by BGN's own film guru, Jonny Page. Give him a follow at Jonny Page 9. Jonny, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. Is it? Evening. Yeah. Even for me, it's not even really the evening now. We're early this week. Yes, I'm very good. It's proper Philly this week, isn't it? The Eagles win, and everyone wants to complain. We've already got two great comments moaning. I love it. Yaka already talking about how bad the offensive line play calling was, and then Zach with a great comment: death, taxes, and backside timing routes. You know these people listen to us, and they're talking backside timing routes, and we've been live for about 10 seconds. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. There's obviously things to be critical of this week. There's no doubt. The Eagles very, very nearly lost to a team that they are quite clearly better than, in my opinion. But NFC title game, home favorites. You can't really ask for much more. I am very much in analysis mode now, but I must be honest, I was a little bit surprised by some of the negativity on Sunday. My instant reaction was just, thank goodness they won, because I really did not want to lose that game. And I really want to watch this team for another week. So, overall, I'm very, very happy with the team. Yes, we're going to pick some holes in some things this week. No, it was not a perfect win by any means. But you know what? The Eagles win a lot of games, Shane. But all the complaints, what is it this year total? Have they now played, lost 3, won 16? Is that playoffs included? I mean, for all the complaints we have, that's not bad going at all, is it? We're maybe slightly spoiled at some points. It's pretty remarkable considering what they were 2-2 as well, weren't they? Yeah. So, there we go. And yes, we'll get this straight out of the way. GGN 10's comment about snow. We'll just say full disclosure. I'm not going to mention the snow because otherwise every single point I mentioned today, I could go, but the snow may have played an impact. So I'm just going to say, if you disagree with anything I say because you think it's because of the snow, that's perfectly fine. I obviously admit that the weather impacts games, but it's also if I want to break down the game, I can't just say to every single play, but the snow could have made an impact. At some point, we have to just analyze the game. And if you lot want to think to yourself, yeah, I agree, but snow probably played an impact, you're probably right. I'm just not going to mention it on every single clip, personally.
Yeah, he said snow games are annoying to watch when you care about the outcome. And I hate snow games. Absolutely hate them. Everybody's like, oh, it's an instant classic because the playing conditions were miserable and nobody could move. And I hate it. And I've been killed on social media 2 years in a row for bringing that up in the playoffs. So I'm not bringing it up on social media anymore, but I hate playing games in the snow. But yeah, we're going to dive in and let's start with the offense, Jonny, because I'm sure that's what most of the people want to talk about. But before we dive in, I do want to mention Jonny and I will be doing a Eagles Commanders schematic preview tomorrow. Just like we did last week for the Rams, it will be in our Patreon. So those of you that joined as free Patreon members last week, maybe you consider joining on one of the 1-week trial memberships because this show is going to be Patreon exclusive. But we're also doing a jersey giveaway at the end of the month to someone in our $5 a month tier. So maybe you sign up, you get great coverage through the playoffs, you get in the jersey giveaway, and you can get out after a month if you want to. I think it's well worth it. But let's dive into the offense. And I do just want to say, because every point I have is going to be about the passing game, and discourse on Twitter is always great. That's why I'm a lot more in the Patreon Discord now than Twitter. But I've had a lot of comments about how, I'm not saying I want the Eagles to air the football out more. I'm not complaining about the style of football that they play. I'm perfectly content to be a run-heavy team that plays really good defense. That said, this run-heavy team in a blizzard game dropped back to pass 27 times. And those outcomes just weren't good enough. And so as I talk about the pass game, I'm not implying I want the Eagles to go 5 wide and air raid. I'm just saying let's have some better plans when it comes to the passing game. And I don't really think anybody can reasonably disagree with that. So let's jump in. And my first point is let's play the blame game, Jonny, and let's talk about the Eagles sacks. And so let's just go through each sack.
Yeah.
Tell you what I think, you can tell me what you think, and we can work through it. So
yeah, sorry, Shane, just to give the people a little bit of takes as well. I saw this, obviously I saw your points in the notes before we started recording. And my first point was going to be about processing and like basically full field reads and backside reads. And I think they go hand in hand with the sack blame game. So I'm probably going to combine my point with yours here. So as we talk through this, I will probably reference a lot of points on the passing game. In all honesty, our first point is basically just going to be passing game. And it's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. The whole pod's not going to be negative, don't worry. But I think the first little half, maybe. And also there's some lovely comments in the chat already from a few people, especially Cargilla, encouraging people to sign up for the Patreon and that they've learned loads from the folks in the Discord. Yeah, we do put a lot of takes in the Discord, a lot of takes. I've been buzzing for this podcast all week because I've been really struggling to say what I think in a written form, if that makes sense. So I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, we'll go through the sacks. And I think the sacks will pretty much highlight the majority of my plays anyway. So we'll combine our first point.
Yeah, last comment I want to shout out Matthew saying, talking about the Patreon, come for the analysis, stay for the jersey giveaways, or pictures of farm animals. So yeah, if you're in the Discord, you've seen pictures of my farm animals. You know that I spent last week digging up a new septic sprinkler line, and you got pictures of that. It's great fun. So, but let's dive into it, and let's just talk about the sack. So on the first sack, the Eagles motion Saquon Barkley out of the backfield, and nobody moves with Saquon. So this is kind of an indicator that it's going to be zone coverage. And so the Eagles have like double slant at the top of the screen, which would be your man beater, but this looks like zone. And so we're going to flare the running back out, run kind of spacing concept at the bottom, which is meant to beat zone coverage. The problem to me here is that this actually isn't zone. It is man. It's a really cleverly disguised man coverage by the Rams, but it ends up being man coverage nevertheless. They get a linebacker bailing off the line of scrimmage, and he's going to pick up Devontae Smith over the middle. And so Hurts opens up to the zone beater side, but it's man coverage. And so it's kind of a disaster.
Yeah, Shane, so I'd say it is zone, but it's like zone that plays out like man, isn't it? Like, I don't think they're lining up the linebacker on Devontae Smith. He's going to carry him vertically. But right. It's like a zone match, I guess. So they like almost pick up, and it's the way the world is these days. It's zone, but it does, you're right, turn into man due to the numbers.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, that linebacker's not like 100%. I have Devontae Smith pre-snap. He's got whoever comes inside. So they're sort of playing man from zone alignments a bit. And so, I mean, you could say like rip this ball to Jahan Dotson, and that's your only viable option here. You cannot go to the backside. Hurts can't throw to the backside. Like, you cannot come to that backside slant route and throw it. It's just not going to work. And so, to me, ball needs to come out to Dotson. If you don't like the look to Dotson, throw it in the dirt at Dotson's feet, but don't take a sack here. And so I tip my hat to the Rams play calling on this one. I think they got the Eagles on this one on the chalkboard, but Hurts still needs to just get this ball out to Dotson, even if you just throw it in the dirt at his feet. So what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think it's a really weird one, actually, because I must admit, I'm not going to go into my whole full point about full field reads on this particular one because this isn't a terrible play. I think Hurts sometimes he does need to let it rip to Dotson, I think is the boring thing. I get why he's worried about a pick, and I think sometimes Hurts needs to throw more low balls. Like, I don't mind him throwing this at the guy's feet. Like, how many times does he throw, like, when QBs throw the ball away, but they don't really throw the ball away? Like, I'd be okay with this landing at like his feet. Like, and maybe he catches it. It's a tough catch. Maybe it falls on the ground. Like, it's a tricky one. I think the interesting thing for me is that we talk about motion all the time, motion being great. And I don't know if the motion actually helps the Eagles here, because I think motion actually basically forces Hurts to go to his right-hand side. And if you pause it now, Shane, you've essentially got 4/3, 2/2. So what I would love, I called this live on Twitter like a pre-snap problem, and you can disagree with me, and you could say, no, Hurts makes the right decision reading it to his right. But actually, what I would love Hurts to do here is just the second he takes the snap, just confirm that they're 2-on-2 at the top, and I would go straight to the double slant. Like, I don't think he has to turn to this side. And I get your idea of like one side zone, one side match. And I think sometimes that's where motion can make things harder, because motion can actually change the picture as well. And it doesn't always work in a QB's favor. It's also a great idea of why to ignore screenshot Twitter, because I posted a clip of why I don't like the spacing here, and I still don't, by the way. I think they're all at the same depth. I think they're too close to each other. But every reply was, AJ Brown's open, AJ Brown's open. And it's like, AJ Brown's running a quick slant. Like, if you want to throw it to AJ Brown, he's got to be your first or second read. You're not going to get to a quick slant. He's basically what? If you're reading this Barkley, Dotson onwards, that's like your fifth read in the progression. You've got to get all the way through front side, then go back to Goddard, back to AJ Brown. He's not getting to his fifth read on a very quick, like, 3-step drop. So I don't hate the play, to be honest with you. I think he just either needs to go to the top of the screen or he needs to fight in the ground to Dotson. I do think we have a big sample size now of Jalen Hurts not throwing these hitch routes particularly, and the Eagles continuing to run them. And I think we will get into this more about this discrepancy between what Hurts actually wants to do and what they're calling, because they just don't seem to throw these hitches very often. So, yeah, I'd probably put that on Hurts if I had to put it on anyone. Do I love the design? No, but I'd say it's mainly on Hurts.
Yeah. All right. I agree with you there. Let's go to the second one. You're going to get A.J. Brown on an out route at the top of the screen. And then the bottom, you sort of get like a flat stop curl route. And then you're going to get the running back just flaring out. To me, there's several things on this play. One is it's pretty clear A.J. Brown is one-on-one pre-snap because there's no safety deep. Now, they could certainly sprint this safety over the top at the snap of the ball. They don't. So to me, there's a few things here. First of all, I'm not coming off of A.J. Brown here. Post-snap, you see no safety going deep. You've got A.J. Brown one-on-one. So that's one thing. Second thing is 2.5 seconds after the snap, A.J. Brown is still engaged with the defender. A.J. Brown needs to win off of this press coverage better. I don't want Hurts to come off of this ball, because if he holds on to it for another quarter of a second, A.J. Brown's breaking to the sideline. He's running an out route against inside leverage. Like, I'm trusting A.J. Brown to win that. If you are going to come off of it, though, the only route you can conceivably come off of it to is the running back out of the backfield. There is zero chance you're coming to a corner stop flat route on the backside and throwing any of those routes that have a singular chance. And so to me, this one is AJ needs to get off of press better. B, maybe you just alert to a vertical route when there's no safety over the top. But C, if you are going to come off of AJ Brown, this ball has to get out to Gainwell out of the backfield. I mean, this is 3rd and 8. I think I understand that, like, he's short of the sticks and he's probably not getting the first down, but he's going to give you the opportunity to kick a field goal or go for it on 4th and short. And instead you get sacked out of field goal range. So I put this one almost entirely on Hurts, with a little bit to A.J. Brown for not getting off of press quicker. Yeah,
for those of you who are on the Patreon, we had a little bit of a debate about this one. So this is one that really frustrates me, and I can understand what Hurts does. By the way, that behind the play angle, Jared Verse, oh my God, he's good, isn't he? Yes. Fair enough. He talked the talk and he walks the walk. My word. So I have so many thoughts on this. And GGM10 commenting about Becton. I'll be honest, I sort of can't be bothered to talk about the offensive line flaws in pass protection, because they weren't brilliant, Shane, but the pass pro is really good most of the time. Like, every team gets beat. I don't think that you can say the Eagles' passing game was limited by their protection. Most of Hurts' sacks he took, he's holding the ball for 3+ seconds. I think, yes, this is a bad play by the line, but it's not going to be one of my key points. I think actually one of your points, Shane, is checkdowns, isn't it? And you're almost combining that in this one as well.
Yeah.
So, comment from Jose as well, saying about, do we think AJ is 100%? No, I do not. I do not think he played well. So, this play, there are so many things in this play. I put in the BG and I went on and on about this play in my film review, and I said I could write an essay about this. I hate so many things about this play. I think there's so much blame that goes around. So where I disagreed with you was you thought that Hurts should have stayed on AJ Brown. I'm going to be honest. I think AJ Brown gets a little bit wrecked here. Like most quarterbacks aren't staring at a guy for 3-4 seconds. Like he's not getting anywhere near off press. And this is where, Shane, we spoke about this. I hate the backside. I mean, realistically, right, what are we actually asking Jalen Hurts to do here? So I assume this is something the Eagles coaching staff want him to do. He's meant to be reading the top of the screen for man coverage. He's decided to come off AJ Brown, and then he's dropping his eyes to the left. Like, the odds of him being able to complete any of these routes to the left, number one, none of them are open anyway. Like, no one is a hope in hell of being open. He's been staring to the right-hand side of the screen for like 2 seconds, and he's meant to just magically like come backside and hit. It's not in his route. It's not in his line of vision. So I'm going to speak a lot about how the Eagles can get better. And one of the things you can do is you can have everything come open in his line of vision. And what I mean by that is you see like the deep corner route that someone is running. Like, I don't know who the receiver is there. You can circle him, turn that into like a deep post or something. So then what you could do is Jalen Hurts hasn't got to look the entire way across. I mean, look how far left, Shane, these routes are. And look how far right AJ Brown's route is. You are asking him to go from one sideline to another sideline. And I said this a lot in the BGN article, and I don't mean it as a criticism. Jalen Hurts is not that good. He is not good enough to do this. And I think it's sort of time the Eagles accepted that. That doesn't mean Jalen Hurts is bad. That doesn't mean Jalen Hurts shouldn't be paid by the Eagles. He is a limited quarterback when it comes to progressions. He is. He always has been. He has been going back to Alabama. And I think some people make excuses for him. And I think some people on Twitter, if you say he's limited, they go, you hate Jalen Hurts. No, I don't. I don't hate Jalen Hurts. Would I pay Jalen Hurts again? Yes, I would. Am I fine with him being the franchise quarterback right now? Yes, I am. He's 26 years old. He's a extremely mobile, massive culture guy, a winner, as Nick Sirianni would say. This play is just infuriating because they're asking him to do something that I don't think he can do. So there are a lot of sort of 3 things I would like to do here. Number one is put some of the other receivers in his line of vision. So maybe run one of them on the post, as I mentioned. Maybe run Devontae Smith running a deep in or something, just so Hurts has more one side of the field. Secondly, alert AJ Brown. So you could also just say we're going to alert AJ Brown and basically say to AJ, if you get one-on-one, run vertical. And what does Hurts do? Throw it to AJ Brown. And everyone went mental. The Eagles offense has no creativity. You can't keep throwing deep shots one-on-one. But the Eagles completed ahead of a lot of them. I'm in the situation now where I do not mind taking one-on-one shots deep to AJ Brown. And the third thing you can do is, this is hard, by the way, Lamar Jackson, who I think might be the best QB in the NFL, or at least top 3, obviously. He had a horrible fumble this week, trying to do too much. Mobile quarterbacks try to do too much. I think Nick Saban spoke about this this week as well. It is 3rd and 8. Mobile quarterbacks hate taking checkdowns on 3rd and 8. They hate it. But at some point, you have to just live to fight another down, and you have to take the check down. The problem is, Shane, is that Hurts could juke Jared Verse there and run forward, and we'll go, what a play. So I think at some point you have to accept that a lot of mobile quarterbacks take more sacks. I'm not going to kill them for it that much. My problem with this play is it's another example of Hurts trying to do stuff that I don't think he can do. And I think at some point, the quarterback coach needs to tell him, look, you're reading one side of the field. We're going to run a lot of half-field reads this week. We're going to simplify it for you. That doesn't mean things are bad. That doesn't mean he can't play quarterback in the NFL. It doesn't mean he was going to lose every week. It just means you make things easier for him, because some of the backside stuff he was trying to get to, like that concept, is near on impossible. There's about 3 to 4 quarterbacks in the current NFL that I reckon could do that. Most QBs coming through the current college game are not taught to do that. You could absolutely build offenses around quarterbacks without asking them to run that. So, yeah, a lot of thoughts on that one.
Your point, you're saying that there's only a few quarterbacks that can do it, and they're all old or Justin Herbert. Or
arguably Dak Prescott, which is quite funny because I think 2 of the best processors in the NFL right now are Kellen Moore's last 2 quarterbacks. Yeah. And I think big picture, the Eagles might have hired Kellen Moore, so Jalen Hurts has to process more. But I'm now fully in the ability of, you know what? One-on-one to AJ Brown, alert it, run deep, especially if there's press coverage, throw it back shoulder. People can say that's too basic. People can say you can't win like that. Fine. I'm okay with the current iteration of this Eagles team with an elite running game, the best defense arguably in the league. I'm okay with one-on-one to AJ Brown against press coverage, throw it back shoulder. Simple. Simplify everything, basically.
Yeah, I like how Dak Prescott has been in the league for 9 years and you exclude him from old quarterbacks, by the way. 31 years old, been in the league since 2016.
By the way, Hurts is 26. Someone said that in my article this week, and I was like, oh my God. So, yeah, it may be that it was want him to learn to do more of this progression stuff because he's not going to be mobile his whole career. But I don't care about Hurts' future right now. I care about winning this year. And you run an offense to win this year. It's the playoffs. The Eagles are 16-3 going into the NFC conference game. Worry about the future in the offseason. Play to win at this point.
Worry about that in week 4. So in classic fashion, we're 20 minutes into the podcast and we've looked at 2 of the 7 plays for my first point. So
love it. We do have, I think your check down point counts here. So we got 3 points in one, basically, isn't it?
No, I've got different plays for my check.
Oh, do you? All right. Well, let's speed things up.
Well, let's do this one fast. Sack number 3. I'm not even going to talk about the routes. The protection's terrible and Hurts has no chance. My only fault to Hurts here is that he fumbles. You can't fumble here in this situation, because it costs the Eagles another 10 yards. And it could have cost him the ball. Fortunately, Gainwell gets on it, but I don't know what they're doing here. No chance. I don't know what Becton is doing, because you see Landon Dickerson pretty clearly signal out to the right and there's somebody coming. And so they should be blocking out like this. And Gainwell is potentially working to this linebacker if he comes, and everybody does that except for Becton, who looks at the guy and then just lets him run directly at Hurts. So
yeah, this one is the O-line. I said we're not going to blame the O-line much. We don't need to talk about this. He just can't fumble. By the way, why does he fumble though? Why does he fumble? Whereas someone like Peyton Manning wouldn't, because what's he trying to do?
Escape.
He's trying to make a play. And to an extent, you have to live with it with mobile quarterbacks. However, you don't have to live with a fumble. But we saw the exact same thing from Lamar this week as well.
Matthew chiming in says we've gotten through more points than Huff has snaps.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one. Next play, it's the Hail Mary, and he gets sacked. I don't really want to talk about that one too much either, other than the Rams do what you should do.
Yeah, just ignore it. I agree.
Always blitz the Hail Mary, and the Eagles just get their quarterback killed for no reason. You're not completing a Hail Mary.
I have no care about this one, except it's just crappy situational football, because if he got injured on this play, I would have lost my mind.
Yeah, just slip Kenny Gainwell out of the backfield and give him the ball with 30 yards of open space and see if he can make a miracle happen. That's a higher probability than your receivers getting 50 yards downfield into the end zone. But anyways, let's keep rolling here on to the next one, because that's a Hail Mary. I don't really want to talk about it. This is one that you get into the mobile quarterback trying to do too much, like you said. And he has a drag route to Devontae Smith underneath. Now, it is 2nd and 15, okay? And I understand why Hurts wants to run here, because if you look, and we'll see it really clearly from the back view, but everybody is got eyes on receivers going upfield. There's nobody on this part of the field, and a lane opens up the middle, and he tries to scramble, and unfortunately he gets grabbed, and then he bumps into Becton, and this is the play he ends up getting twisted around. This is a mobile quarterback trying to do too much. And if he gets out of here cleanly, he probably picks up the first down. And so I get it. And I'm honestly not going to kill him for it. But, I mean, Devontae Smith has a linebacker. If Devontae Smith makes a linebacker miss, he can also get a big gain. And so I understand why Hurts tries to go here. And this is the one that if he gets loose and he rips off a 20-yard scramble, we're saying, oh, what a great play. And maybe it's a little revisionist because he ends up getting tackled and hurt on this play. But I'd love to see you just get this to Devontae Smith. But it is remarkable bad luck that he ends up getting snagged and then bumping into Becton on the way out. What do you see on this one?
Yeah, nothing particularly different. I think, maybe just trying to do a little bit too much with his legs. I think this ball can probably come out earlier. Speaking of which, at least the Eagles ran a crossing route, because I barely see mesh anymore, Shane. The Eagles' staple play that worked for like half the season, just didn't see it in this game. Which is another topic for another day, but there we go. Yeah.
All right, well, let's get to the safety. And on this one, maybe don't run verticals from the 8-yard line 2 plays after your quarterback got injured. So there's a lot of elements here. That's the crappy play call portion of this.
Just quickly, Shane, I did see Kellen Moore in his press conference took blame for this one, which I think was nice, because it's not fully his fault, but he did take the blame on this sack, on this safety.
Yeah, so that's the bad play call portion. The bad Hurts portion is that Dallas Goedert chip releases over the middle and is wide open. And then the bad protection part is Cam Jurgens just whiffs his protection. And when you get bad QB play, bad design, I mean, look at Goddard. Look at Goddard here. So that's the bad QB portion. And then you get the bad protection that adds up into a safety. And you can see from the back view on the protection what's going on. I saw some people insinuating this is on Landon Dickerson. This is not on Landon Dickerson. The Eagles are pushing their protection to the right, which means that we're one-on-one on the backside here. Cam Jurgens is not expecting help from Landon Dickerson. Now, because this edge rusher drops out, Jordan Mailata does a really good job of coming inside and pushing Dickerson. And so Dickerson could have done a better job of getting into this defender, but it's not his responsibility. Cam Jurgens was not expecting help he didn't get. Cam Jurgens just whiffs on this protection. And so also just another thing is like, if you just fall forward here, you're out of the end zone and you don't take a big hit. So like, I know bullets are flying, all that stuff, but I would love Hurts at this point that he's dead in the water just to fall down forward, and he's probably not going to get hit hard, and it's not a safety. So just a lot of stuff on this one, and there's plenty of blame to go around.
It's interesting, Shane. Sometimes if you go back to that one, sometimes you see things you didn't actually see before. So I 100% agree. I think Hurts has to eliminate this quicker. When we talk about elimination, that's basically the same thing as processing. For those of you listening, I just like the phrase elimination because it basically means you eliminate what isn't open. So read number one, not open, gets number two. If you actually pause it when the guy's bearing down at him, he's made no movement to go to Goddard yet. So I think one of the reasons why he doesn't throw it to Goddard is he doesn't really look his way until basically he's hit. If you go back to the original view as well, I hate this play call because I think it's I just don't understand how many deep drops they continue to take. But like I think when you see him behind the end zone, he's staring to the left. Like he's got to speed up his process here. Like, and I don't really know what he's waiting for, unless he's hoping that middle defender like goes elsewhere. Your process has got to be sped up. Your process has got to be sped up. Again, if I wanted to be a little bit critical of the design to an extent, you could argue like the fact that he's reading a guy to the left and then he's got to get his head around to Goddard from the right. You could do things to maybe keep things within his line of vision. For example, Goddard could run maybe more of like a shallow route. So he's coming across the formation. So Hurts hasn't got to move from left to right. There's other things you can do. But I think, let's be honest, people that are putting this on design are probably trying to make maybe too many excuses for Hurts because you can't take a safety here, despite what Kellen Moore said. I think this also goes back to my point from earlier on that even if you're worried about a defender being there, just throw it low and hard into the ground. I saw people saying he can't throw it away, he's in the end zone. You're never going to get a safety called as long as it's near a receiver. As long as it's near him. If you aim for Goddard's feet and it's a couple of yards short, the safety's not getting called. So, yeah, he can't take a sack here, but he's also quite simply not healthy at this point of the game, and they are quite clearly calling concepts that do not suit him. So it's frustrating from sort of so many different aspects.
Yeah, anytime you take a safety from a snap that started at the 8-yard line, unless the ball was snapped over your head, that's bad process.
It's really bad from everyone. That's just bad. Like, let's be honest, that's bad all around.
Yeah, and then the final one, this one will be quick. People were upset with the play action boot call on 2nd and 7. I liked it. They had run it 4 times in the game and never gotten less than 5 yards. On this one, Goddard simply doesn't seal the edge long enough. And so this
was 2nd and 7, wasn't it, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
if you get the minimum that you've gotten on your other ones, you're going into a 3rd and 3. Like, they have not thrown an incompletion off of a bootleg. They haven't taken a sack. Goddard just lets this guy go too fast, and he's got a direct path to Hurts. So
yeah, and for what it's worth, he absolutely made the right decision getting sacked. I saw some people saying he should have thrown it away. That is utter madness. He has to go down. Good comment Matthew, you just comment saying on the safety, my half-field strategy would have worked. I think I possibly agree as well, as I mentioned just then. Toilet paper with a good comment saying there's times when Hurts moves on from his routes too fast. There's times when he stares at his first read for too. Sorry, TPY. TPYT says this, of course. But I agree. And that is exactly what happens when a quarterback is not sure what they're seeing, basically. It's hard being an NFL quarterback. You get told you're eliminating too quickly. There are times in the season when he's eliminating too quickly. There are times when he's too slow. You almost feel like you can't win as a quarterback, and it's a sign that you're not particularly comfortable. And that's basically it. Right, Shane, I'll go straight on to my second point, nice and quickly. We've done the first one there together, but we do want to get through a few different points. So I put as my second point, simplify everything. I've already mentioned a little bit of this, which is why I'll just go straight through with it. Simple doesn't have to be bad. I'm fed up with people thinking complex is better. It's not. I have no problem calling Jalen Hurts a half field. Doesn't mean he's one read and done, but you can start running progressions that are more within his line of sight. So what I mean by that is a lot of progressions these days, or a lot of coaching staffs these days, like to run plays that you said half side man, half side zone. Fine. But the problem with that is you basically limit yourself to 2 or 3 receivers on each side of the field. And it also means that if you misread man or zone, you end up trying to get backside. And there are other things you can do. You don't have to call plays like that. I've already mentioned you can call plays where all of the receivers come into his line of vision. Things like drive or like mesh, for example, mesh with a like deep route over the top of it, and then you can just have 2 receivers on the outside running go balls to like alert it. You don't have to have a man versus zone side. And I think the other thing you can do, Shane, is you can go back to a Brian Johnson speciality in that you can just throw it deep a little bit more. Like you can just take your outside the number shots. So other ways you can simplify it, by the way, running bootlegs, running simple ways. Again, it doesn't mean the quarterback's bad. It just means that the way you are trying to win at the moment, this is how you want to win. There's a whole argument. The backside timing routes are not great anyway. You see loads of pick sixes on backside digs. Like it's risky throws for QBs. I'll give you an example of how to make things simple. On AJ Brown's drop, it's a good example. So play 7 of my film thread, please, Shane, if you happen to have it up. I know you're probably bringing it up right now. So I can't remember what down and distances was, but the Eagles make the correct decision here. So they have a 2x2. And they basically just run like, I think it's 4 verts actually. I think this is in the 4 verts family. And they see single high and he just throws it to AJ Brown. It's not a hard read. It's basic. And you could say you can't live off this kind of stuff, but it's not all you have to do. But one way of simplifying things is Hurts is an outstanding back shoulder thrower of the football. He's an outstanding deep thrower. Do a little bit more of this. And this should have been an easy completion. I didn't post the other viewpoint, but it's an awful drop for what it's worth. Like it really is an easy catch for AJ Brown. So I want to simplify everything. I do not want to see backside timing routes this week. I want to see everything easier on the quarterback. If that means more quick game, fine. If that means more down the field shots, fine. You've got the backside view here. You can see it really clearly. This is that literally for AJ Brown, for any wide receiver in the NFL, really, that's a bad drop. It happens. I think AJ Brown probably catches that 99 out of 100 times. But that is what I mean when I say simplify it. We just haven't seen that very much.
It was second and 1 too. Second and 1, by the way.
Even better. Like perfect time to take a shot. We just don't take enough shots outside of numbers anymore. That is my second point, basically.
All right. Well, that was nice and fast. Mine's going to sort of go along with that. My second point is let's stop taking sacks. And there's some check down and some design things I want to tie in. And so I want to talk about 4 plays, and I'll try to do it really quickly. So on this first one, the Eagles run mirrored hitch routes, mirrored hitch vertical routes. So we're going to get verticals against the seam. We get hitch routes. And this is in the 4 verticals family. And it's not going to be open because the Rams spin into too deep coverage. And so you're not threatening the seams. You're not really threatening vertically. But you know what you do? You release your running back right over the ball. And so your linebackers are carrying things vertically. The ball comes out to Saquon. It's a 6-yard gain on first down. Like, let's get running backs over the ball more, making themselves available to the quarterback so we can get him the ball. And I just think that was a good job of Hurts. It's not there. What you wanted is not there. Just get the ball out. Another one I wanted to show is a lot of times the Eagles just have a do or die concept. And this is 3rd and 3. They did it on 4th and 4 late in the game. They're going to run a slant route to AJ Brown. And if that slant route is not open, good luck, because there's nothing else. The tight end is just pressing vertically to generate a window for this. And then on the backside, you get a curl route and an out route. And we all know what I think about backside timing routes. There's no chance. And so this is going to be a completion to AJ Brown, right? And so I don't want to nitpick it too much, but let's make it easier. Like, What if instead of having Goddard just run vertically, we run crash? And so we give him another option here to throw the ball if A.J. Brown's not open, if they do overplay that slant route because it's becoming a tendency. What if on the backside we have, a post route and a dig route? So we get things coming into Hurts's field of vision. Or what if we just always said our front side concept is to the bottom of the screen, so our topmost receiver is just always running a vertical route? And Jalen, if our crash concept's not open, you know that you're going to have a receiver 30 yards downfield. Just throw it to him one-on-one. Like, there's a lot of things that you could do here, but what the Eagles do is they say, if AJ's not open on the slant, we're going to take a sack and we're going to punt on fourth down. And I hate that. Dislike that so much. Now let's go to another one that I thought was really good. This time, this is 3rd and 14 on their own 5-yard line, and they get an isolation out route at the bottom, and Hurts doesn't like it. What I like is that there's something baked in if he doesn't. We get vertical routes on the backside, and we just get Saquon swinging out to the flat with Dallas Goedert as a lead blocker. And so Hurts eliminates this look to A.J. Brown, balls out, and Saquon actually ends up picking a first down. Like, those are the types of things you need. Give me a clear option that we can go to if number one's not there.
Yeah, I love that call, by the way. That's probably the best play call of the game.
Yeah.
That was really good.
And then this last one I'll show. This is going to be crash to the bottom. Again, I just talked about this. The Eagles love this concept, and the Rams play it very well. But at the top, there's nothing there. We get a vertical route up the seam, we get a curl route, and we get a swing route. Like, there's nothing you can throw there. How about we get our running back on an angle route, breaking back into Hurts's vision? Like, that could work. How about we run double post wheel on the backside and we get our running back one-on-one up the sideline against the linebacker? Like, there's a lot of things that you could do to give something in play on the backside. Hurts has nowhere to go with this. Now, I think the reason the Eagles don't like to put things over the middle of the field sometimes is because they want it to clear out so he can run. And you see that's what happens here, right? It's 2nd and 8, open to the field. The middle of the field is wide open, and he scrambles for the first down. Hurts got twisted up on his knee. His mobility may not be an option for the rest of the playoffs. I don't know. We're not going to know. But if it's not, they need more of these routes coming over the middle that Hurts can dump it off to. So you want to stop taking sacks, stress to Hurts, 1-2 check down. And I think they just don't have those things in their offense right now.
Yeah, that's how I would go about things as well. That was another play, by the way. That's basically pick a side, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That's crash one side, then other side, pick a side. And the problem is that it looks like crash will be open. And basically, if you do a good job of disrupting the initial route concept, there's not really anything Hurts can do. And I think the Rams did a very good job stopping crash. They had a lot of times where they dropped like a linebacker inside of A.J. Brown. So A.J. Brown was cutting inside. And yeah, there are also times, by the way, when they played man coverage and the Eagles receivers didn't win. It just wasn't a great game in quite a few different ways. Right, let's get on to a couple of good points, actually. So I will talk a little bit about my favorite thing in the world, which is the run game. Bit of a weird run game, Shane. So I have not got the numbers in front of me because I'm a moron and I forgot to prep them. So I'm now frantically looking them up. But the Eagles' run game was not actually that strong in this one, which is a weird thing to say.
35% success rate. Saquon averaged, I think it was 2.7 yards per carry if you exclude the 2 long touchdown runs. Right,
there's some actual numbers. It was like 20 carries for like 60 yards or something, wasn't it? If you exclude the 2 long ones. And you could say, well, it's like very Cowboys-ish. If we had those plays, we wouldn't have won. Was it Micah Parsons that said that or whatever? But essentially, like, you can't just run explosive plays because running game is meant to be about consistent offense. So it is a problem. However, I'm not going to speak about the problems of the run game this week because I have a feeling, Shane, and I said I wouldn't talk weather much. So I'm not going to go into detail, but the Eagles just didn't run gap scheme this week very much at all. And I have a very, very big suspicion that the field conditions play a role in that because you don't want offensive linemen pulling and so. So I think they ran a lot of very basic zone runs up the middle and didn't win. But I do want to talk about the good runs because they were awesome. They were really, really cool, every single one. So we'll start, I'll very, very quickly run through them. We'll start with the Eagles' first touchdown, which was my favorite play in the world, play 2 on my film thread. I got so many tweets when this happened in my Discord, just counter bash. It doesn't get any better. I know, obviously, I think it's Becton's block, or no, it was next play actually, wasn't it? Becton's block goes viral. But QB Calabash is just so hard to stop. It's so hard to stop. I think Hurts has perfected the mesh point. Like, he hands this off at the very, 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 very last minute. It gives you a great numbers advantage because the Rams are 4 over 3 backside. And when the QB runs, as I've said for so long, it is literally +1 in the run game. It is like having an extra player on the field. I think my simple favorite thing about this play is just simply that Jalen Hurts doesn't slide. He actually this is proper mobile. We haven't seen this for a while. This is like Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson. Like, actually, you're not just fast, you're actually a positive in the run game. Break for a tackle, shrug him off, run through. That's really good. Like, really good. There are not many QBs that will make that play. That is like old school Jalen Hurts when he was running the ball a lot more. And I'm glad he didn't go down. And if you look, he's outrunning people there. He is outrunning defenders at the end. That's about as fast as I've seen Hurts run. And it's very sad in the same game he hurt himself. Not running, by the way. How many quarterbacks get injured from the pocket? People was moaning about running quarterbacks getting hurt. A lot of the time it's from the pocket. But that was a really, really cool play. The next one I really like as well. So I think the Eagles have been a little bit inspired by Ben Johnson here. This is play 4 of my film thread. And I mentioned Ben Johnson because I think the Lions have been the masters of this in the past few years. The Lions are the masters of running on 3rd and medium. So I think they are very, very, very good at running on 3rd and medium. And I think other teams have started to do it, like the Eagles, because if you know you're going for it on 4th down, or even just you're happy to run it, I think this is 3rd and 4, if I remember correctly. And the Eagles catch the Rams in a very much like a pass-heavy coverage. They're not particularly well-versed to play the run at all here. They completely leave, is it the C gap or D gap? I can't remember from the angle you're showing, wide open. They are just not gap sound. And if
this is a minor point. 3 defensive linemen to the right of the center, and it's a linebacker and a safety in the A and B gaps.
Because they're playing the run. Sorry, they're not playing the run. They are playing the pass. And they're not gap sound. So what I mean by that is they don't have somebody in a specific gap. And if you are not gap sound against this Eagles team, they will kill you in the run game. I can't really say enough about Saquon. I feel like there are moments when you watch sports, doesn't matter what sports you watch, where it's like someone's destiny to be great because he's that good. You just know he's going to do something special. There are not many athletes I see a lot in my time where I think they're the best player on the field every single time they walk out and they're more athletic than everyone else. But I think Saquon Barkley is that. I've seen a lot of quotes from people coming up to on the sideline this week, like other players saying, "You're the best football player I've ever seen in my life. You're the best football player I've ever seen." And I get it. He looks like he's playing a different sport to everyone. So this is just athleticism. Like, that's just he just makes he's not even like a hard chain. He beats the safety with ease. We spoke about this, or I spoke about this last week, about if you do stack the box against the Eagles, you are taking a risk because there is always a chance that Saquon can take the distance. But by a mile, my favorite run is the last one. It's film clip number 12. This is so good by Saquon, like so good. It's just a split zone running play. But what do you want to do on split zone? You want to press the line of scrimmage quickly. Coaches always talk about running backs not stopping their feet. So he gets to the line of scrimmage, but he doesn't stop. He knows exactly what he's doing pre-snap. This is all planned. He is running through the A gap, and then he knows he's going to bounce it outside. He's running that to draw the linebackers and second level defenders up. And if you look at the Rams defensive linemen and linebackers, they jump to the inside when Saquon Barkley goes inside. I think that one in particular, or just on the mouse, jumps inside. And he just goes. He knows exactly what he's doing. And then he just roasts the safety again. Like, he's so fast. The safety can't even get near him. He shrugs him off like he's not even there. A couple of good comments from Carjetta saying it gives him the same feeling when you saw Usain Bolt running. It is like that. It's like when there's a destiny that an athlete is that good that he's going to do something special. He is playing at that level. And yeah, Matthew making the comment that's gone around this week that Jalen checked both of those runs. That is true. That is true from what we've heard. Both of them were audibles, which is cool. But it is just like ridiculous. Like it's sort of ridiculous how good Saquon Barkley is. I enjoy watching him so much. I think the only criticism this week is that the running game wasn't as dominant as it could be. And again, when we go back to the passing game and why I'm fine with it being simple, it's because every team is different, and this team can have a simple passing game because the running game is so good and Saquon Barkley is so good. And if anything, Shane, when you've got a good running game, negative plays are the worst thing that you want. You don't want to take sacks. You want to stay on schedule. So it makes even more sense to simplify the passing game because there's no need to have negative plays when the running game is this good. So yeah, that's basically it for offense. For me, I would just say that it is really cool watching Saquon. Forget the X's and O's, forget the schematic thing. You're just watching a guy who is playing as well as anyone I've ever seen play the position.
Yeah, I loved the clip that came out of his run with just the crowd noise in the background and the crowd erupting. And man, seeing him he's hitting his helmet when he's 10 yards from the end zone, and then he drops the ball and is sprinting through the end zone. He's just having a blast, and you love to see it. Real quickly, I'm going to talk about the Eagles play action bootleg game because I like it a lot. I won't belabor this too much, but
just
the Eagles,
do it more. Just do it more, please. I don't understand.
Yeah, the Eagles are going to motion Johnny Wilson in like a fullback, and then he's going to run the clear out route, and you get a release by Goddard into the flat, and you get the over route by A.J. Brown. I will say, I don't know. I've never seen the Eagles throw the over route, and maybe they're just never going to. But if you're going to, releasing your clear out route from the fullback position is going to make it really hard to clear it out for the over route because you sort of see how they're in the same space here. But Hurts just gets this out to Goddard, starts the game with 15-yard completion. That's super easy.
And easy, Shane. Don't have to get backside. You can bring 3 receivers to one side of the field, all in your line of vision. Again, doesn't have to be rocket science.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that difficult.
And just to point out something we'll come back to, watch how Goddard blocks on this one. Make sure the end is inside and then we get out. That's what he fails to do on the final play. But this one is a little bit weird because they're going to play action bootleg right, and they're going to run Jahan Dotson out. And I don't know what he's supposed to be doing. So Smith and Goddard both kind of release to the flat. And typically, Dotson would be a clear out route, and you run the over route from A.J. Brown. But A.J. Brown doesn't run an over route. And so maybe they're just trying to work this corner route to Dotson. If so, this is a bad route by Dotson. Because right now, as
it's
he's
bad. It's really bad.
As Hurts is coming out of this, if Dotson breaks this hard to the sideline, he's wide open. If he's supposed to be running a clear out route, you would have to have AJ coming underneath, and he's not. And if it was a clear out route, you would keep going straight vertically. And he sort of splits the difference and just runs this route that people are screenshotting and stuff, but he's looking back for the ball. But right now you've got a safety over the top of him and he's not running hard. So you can't really make that throw. I don't think. You could make it, but that's a hard throw in the snow on the move. But if he would have just broken this to the sideline harder, this is wide open. But I'm just not sure the Eagles are even looking at that route. I think they're just doing it to get this flat release, which again is fine. I do think you're going to have to attack downfield off of it eventually just to make teams respect it. But this is 5 yards and we'll take it. And so
Shane, I don't want to be too critical, but anyone that's ever played sports, any sport, when you and anyone who's ever played football in particular, when you don't really want the ball. When you're I don't really fancy this one. I'm not going to say this is what Dotson's doing here, but I'll be honest. This looks a little bit like if I drift towards the safety, this ball is probably not going to get thrown my way. And it's almost like now either he's being told it's a clear out route, in which case, fair enough. But this screams a little bit of I don't really want it. I'm not too keen on this because it's such a lazy drift.
Yeah.
He does look back at the ball, but you can see he knows where the defender is because he looks left at him. Yeah, it's pretty poor. It's pretty poor. That's not what you want to see. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I would believe it's a clear out route. There's just nothing that he would be clearing space for. So I don't know. And then there's one other one I skipped that was a 4-yard gain. And then you get to the one that's the sack that we already talked about. But Goddard just doesn't hold that protection long enough. And if he does hold that protection long enough, I think the Rams are pretty well keyed on it at this point. But this is where you need to be able to throw this over route, because if you've got a clear out, we're stretching this. Like, I think you could throw this. Maybe not have A.J. Brown here, kind of condensing this space. I don't know why they feel like they need like this flat route and this delay release, but I do think they need to throw that over route at some point off of the play action bootlegs. But I love play action bootlegs. Let's do it more frequently.
Yeah, and also let's do some to Hurts right as well. But basically, it worked every time except for when the Rams were selling out to stop the run at the end of the game. That was the only time it didn't work. And most weeks it works. So I have a radical thought, Shane. And it might sound crazy, but do the stuff that works. Just
Don't
a little
do the
bit
stuff
more.
that doesn't.
Yeah, it's a theme of the Eagles the past few years, is that, yeah. I also think Hurts is good on the move. Joe reminds me of Shane. Remember the Eagles ran dash like 6-7 weeks ago? They ran one play, a designed rollout, and Hurts made a great throw for like 20 years, and we've never seen it since.
They're saving it for next year.
Honestly, the Super Bowl, the Eagles passing concepts are going to be unbelievable. Mesh, dash, bootleg. It's even, oh my God, or bootleg, sorry. So this is brilliant. Kellen Moore, we've been waiting for this.
And then he takes the job at Dallas, and then we're all set.
Yeah, and then every play next year is like perfect. But anyway, right. That's it was a frustrating offensive performance, wasn't it? Despite the fact they did all right, it was frustrating. We move over to the defense.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball, and I think there's a lot more positive here. We'll also be briefer here because we have to. Why don't I start us off here? And I want to talk about Fangio was in his bag in this game. Fangio did a lot of things that Fangio doesn't normally do. And I'm going to talk about two of them. I know Johnny's going to talk about one. But the first thing that Fangio never does is walk linebackers up on the line of scrimmage. And here he walks both linebackers up on the line of scrimmage, and they're mugging up the A-gaps, this double mug look. And they're actually both going to blitz. And both of the edge rushers drop out. And this is cover one, double rat, I think is what technically the Fangio scheme calls it. You've got two rat droppers into these zones under the middle. And what's really cool, and you'll see it better from the back view, but you're generating one-on-ones for your linebackers, and you're still only rushing four. And so the way that they do this, and this is consistent, they put Zach Bond away from Jalen Carter, because what's the defense going to do? They're going to slide Jalen Carter's direction, right? And the running back's going to come back here. So if this happens to be the linebacker that drops out, they can get the double team on Carter. And so you're essentially guaranteeing a one-on-one for Zach Bond against a running back, forcing them to protect six and only rushing four. Like, that's a massive win. And so the Eagles did this here, and, Bond is not able to get to Stafford. And Isaiah Rodgers does a pretty bad job in coverage there. But that's not the only time they did it. Here they do it again. They walk up both of the linebackers. And it's not mugging the A-gaps this time because Jalen Carter is in the A-gap. But this time they send all six. They play cover one behind. And again, because you get Zach Bond to the side of Jalen Carter, you get him one-on-one with a running back. And Nolan Smith ends up coming up with a strip sack. And so they were doing this to get one-on-ones for Carter, and they were doing it to get one-on-ones for Bond against linebackers. And so you can see they're going to slide to Carter. We want to get four hands on Carter if the running back or if the other linebacker drops out. I thought this was really clever. And then I'll show one more time that they do it. Again, they're going to walk guys up on the line of scrimmage again, and they play cover one behind. This time, Oren Burks isn't able to really get anywhere, and so he just gets his hands up in the passing lane and knocks it down. Last year, we saw the Eagles. It was kind of a joke that when the Eagles showed a double mug look, you could guarantee they were going to bail out of it. They have not really shown double mug looks this year at all. And Fangio showed it 3 times in this game, and he used it to generate one-on-ones for Zach Bond. And I really liked that little changeup.
Oh, I forgot they were the good days, weren't they? Laughing at the Eagles defense last year. The double mug looks, and then they bailed every time. I remember that. That was good fun. That was good fun. And God, we were bad last year. Right. Anyway, yeah, I'll talk about one that, and you stole the best point this week because you're going to talk about stunts and fake stunts. And oh my God, Fangio was good this week. It's a weird thing to say this because the Eagles gave up 402 total yards at 5.7 yards per play. But I felt like schematically they were really good. I felt like it was individually that they suffered a little bit in this game. And I'll speak more about that in a second point, actually. It wasn't the greatest defensive performance in the world, but I think the Rams offense is just really good and Sean McVay is outstanding. But I think like schematically, what the Eagles did here was really, really strong. Quick comment from King Dammy talking about Sweat. He's been a little bit quiet, but I think he looks fine. I think he's a good pass rusher. I think he's got a lot better against the run than he was in the early parts of the year. He seems to have calmed down in terms of setting the edge. And he does seem to make one or two big plays every week. So he's not a concern. I think his problem might be he's playing too much because the Eagles signed the Ghost, sadly, who doesn't exist, even on third and longs. So I'm going to talk about another mix-up. I said about Fangio mixing things up a lot. We saw some drop 8, Shane. Some drop 8. Fangio never drops 8. It almost doesn't happen. So
He's done it 11 snaps this entire season.
Yes, you're lucky if you get it one per game. I think I have it on play. What goodness? What play is it in my film, Fred? You've got it up before me. That's good. Right, couple of things I like about drop 8. So, firstly, I like the fact the Eagles just make it sound very obvious it's drop 8. They're like, yeah, we're sending 3. We're never going to disguise this. The other cool thing is when you drop 8, I mean, guess what? You have an extra man in coverage. And this plays a good example to show what they were doing quite a lot of this game in that when you play match zone, you can run a lot of brackets without actually bracketing somebody. So, like, I think they run 2 brackets here. So if you look at Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, they have an inside and outside bracket on both of them. However, I think you could also just call that, like, zone coverage. Like, yes, it's a bracket, but I don't think it would traditionally be called like an actual bracket. I think it's just a case of, there's a guy inside him and there's a guy outside him. And when he runs into your angle, when he runs into your zone, you sort of have an idea about him. I think that dropping 8 is better against immobile quarterbacks. The worry with dropping 8 is that a very mobile guy can run around in circles for ages and can eventually just break down your zone coverage. So I have an idea. I think they should probably drop 8 a couple of times against Jaden Daniels, and I think I would use it in very specific situations. One, I would not use it outside of the red zone because I think basically when you have to cover larger distances, the QB can run around and extend plays more. It's really hard to extend plays in the red zone. So I prefer, when you've got more field to cover. So I prefer dropping 8 in the red zone. Secondly, I would drop 8, but I'd use like a fake spy or a quasi spy. So I would basically have your middle hook defender almost be like a spy on Daniels, and then he can go and blitz if Daniels gets outside the pocket. The benefit of doing that is that if you send 4 and have like a fake spy, then you've basically committed 5 defenders already. So you've got 1 less in coverage. Whereas I think if you drop 8 and still have a spy, you can essentially run a normal like coverage scheme and just have an extra hook defender. So that was just a cool play. It was cool to see Fangio drop 8. It was cool to see a changeup. It worked. They got the sack. They forced the field goal. And to answer a quick question on M squared saying, what have I missed that's resulted in those snaps for Huff? Basically, he is not very good. That is the answer. He has not been very good when he's played this year, and his run defense has been atrocious. However, I must confess, I'm a little surprised we're not seeing him on third down more. Like the Eagles are running Jalen Hunt out there. And I think on 3rd and 13 or whatever, I think one of the issues is we haven't seen him being able to drop into coverage this year either. And I think the benefit of playing someone like Hunt is that if they do drop into coverage, that becomes an added bonus. But last time we played Washington, Shane, they ran some really good route concepts in the red zone and they murdered the Eagles zone match. Dropping 8 could be a way of changing things up and simply getting more bodies in the red zone to prevent any sort of coverage breakdowns. So maybe we won't see it because Daniels is very, very mobile, but I wouldn't be totally opposed to running some drop 8 this week.
Yeah. All right. That was an interesting change up that, again, is something that the Eagles just don't really do. And I'm going to go ahead and get into the pass rush games and some of the stunts because that's another thing Fangio doesn't do much. And then I'll close out with our player spotlight on Oren Burks from the Patreon community. But this was one that actually Jalen Carter called on the field, and my clip cuts in after he already signaled to Nolan Smith. But they're going to run an ET stunt. An ET stunt is just where the end is before the tackle. You can also get a TE stunt, which is the opposite, but you get Nolan Smith rushing inside to the guard. He's going to collision the guard. The end is first, and the tackle loops around the outside, and he's going to get the sack of Matthew Stafford. And so you can see it play out here. Nolan Smith across the tackle into the guard. Jalen Carter is able to loop and just like bear hugs Matthew Stafford and picks him up, which I thought was hilarious. On this next one, the Eagles are in a load front. So they've got 3 defensive linemen lined up to the over or to the right of the center, and only 1 defensive lineman out wide to the left. But at the last second, they're going to kick Josh Sweat inside, and they walk Zach Bond down, which is the versatility of Bond. It gives you a lot of things that you can do.
Shane, just quickly on that, you said the last second. We are talking the last second. If you're an offensive lineman, that is god awful. That is as late as a rotation as you can basically ever see. Like, that is a 4 down front until Stafford basically snaps the football. That's tough to deal with. That's really tough.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really hard to deal with. And you're going to get Jalen Carter rushing inside, and then Moro Ojomo is going to loop around him. And I think this is the play where Ojomo ends up getting the sack. And so I don't even know if that one was entirely planned, but you can see the way these guys play off of each other really well. Then let's get to the final drive, and this is where it gets great. The Eagles are going to run a twist with their defensive tackles. So Jalen Carter is going to rush inside, and you get Milton Williams looping around him. Now, this doesn't work, although Zach Bond is going to get a free run here through the linebacker and blows this linebacker up. But this isn't about Zach Bond. It's about the twist up front. So you see Jalen Carter attacks the center into the guard, and they do a pretty good job of passing that off. Stafford's under duress and throws it. Okay, 2 plays later, we get to a 3rd and 2. And I want you to watch what Jalen Carter does, because Jalen Carter is going to start to cross the center again. And you can see the center turn and look for the defensive tackle that he's supposed to be receiving. And then Jalen Carter just gets upfield. So watch right here. We're engaging with the center, right? We're crossing the center, and watch see the center's head turn. He's turning to look for the other defensive tackle. And then Jalen Carter just throws him off and just murders Matthew Stafford.
It's so good. Shane, just quickly on that as well. One other thing is, it doesn't just fall the center, it falls the right guard, because I think the right guard is planning to double Jalen Carter. If you look at the right guard.
Yeah.
And I think when he sees Carter stunting, he then goes, okay, well, I'll double up on the edge instead. It's so good. Yeah,
it's always great when you see, like, in unison, the right guard's head snap right, the center's head snap left, and Jalen Carter run right in between them.
Quick question. Do you reckon this was coaches or Carter?
I think this was just Carter.
I think he might be a special football player, IQ-wise as well. I have a feeling he may have just been like, do you know what? Yeah, this is how it will work. Yeah.
And you know what? If it worked once, let's just try it on the very next down on 4th and 11, because he's going to do the same thing with the same result. Now, this time the center doesn't bite on it as hard, but if you just watch these guys again, he starts to rush inside, and he doesn't really get the center other than the fact he clubs back to the inside, but watch the right guard. Immediately, boom, head kicks out to the edge rusher, which is stupid because he's already got chip help. But let's go triple team Nolan Smith and leave Jalen Carter one-on-one with the center, and he gets pressure again. And so I thought that was awesome. We had a comment here asking about, could those twists and stunts be a way to bait Daniels into stepping into pressure this week? Absolutely. And we've seen that with Jalen Hurts before, where it looks like there's a gap to scramble up the middle, and all of a sudden you've got an edge rusher that's looping through what looked open. And so, and it was against, the right guard was causing a lot of those issues. The nice thing is that Commanders' right guard, who is their best pass protector, will not be playing on Sunday. So there's some exploitable matchups there for sure, both through stunts, fake stunts, and through walking up your linebackers. So that's my second point. Jonny, what do you have for your next defensive point?
A good question. What do I have? Let me have a look. So I have, I'll talk about catch point. To be honest, Shane, if you've got any of the deep plays that the Eagles gave up in this game, you can just run them because I'm not going to actually explain the individual plays because in all honesty, schematically, then they're nothing special. I just think it's worth mentioning that when you look at the box score today, from this game, Matthew Stafford was 26 of 44 for 324 yards, which is obviously not where you want to be. You don't expect the Eagles to give up 324 yards. However, 115 of these yards came on 3 passing plays, which means Stafford actually, if you take out those 3, had 209 yards on 41 attempts. Now, I know it's very easy to say you can't just ignore the deep ones, so bear with me. I'm not ignoring the deep ones, but what I would say is that they were not really well schemed up plays, these Rams deep shots. They were not the Eagles losing. This was not Fangio getting beat. They were just straight up catch point problems. Isaiah Rodgers had perfect coverage twice. Once on the deep shots in the middle of the field, and he just gave up the catch. Then you're posting the second one here. He's in perfect position here on the second one. He just gives up the catch to Cooper Kupp. That's 2 deep shots. And then on the the very, very final drive, Darius Slay is in perfect position on Puka Nacua, and Puka Nacua just runs straight by him. This is the most egregious one, the first one. Rodgers has to intercept that or at least knock it down. You can't be giving up a catch in that situation. So I think it's just worth noting. Like, do I think it's a huge problem? Probably not. But it's just worth pointing out that the Eagles' big plays allowed this one. And if you're watching, there's Darius Slay one, were not down to schematic problems. They were not down to Fangio being beat schematically or anything. They were just down to the other team making plays. And hopefully Quinion Mitchell's back this week. It seems like he will be. But I think if I was the Washington defensive coordinator, I would look at that and think, you know what? Let's take a few down the field shots and see what we get. So I think it's just worth mentioning that maybe the Eagles have got to be a little bit more focused on knocking out the football and not trying to pick off everything in 50-50 situations. It's something to consider because I think especially Isaiah Rodgers, he tried to intercept in both of those examples. And maybe if he didn't, he would have quite easily knocked the football away.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Let me roll on to my final point. Patreon community was very close between voting for Oren Burks and Jalen Carter. Oren Burks slightly won, but I also talked about Carter with the stunts and things as well. So let's talk about Oren Burks. Vic Fangio insinuated in the week that Trotter would play some, and then he didn't. And asked about it afterwards, he said that Oren Burks played well. And you take Vic at his word because he doesn't play games when it comes to things like that. And I thought he did play well. He had some, I will say he had some rough reps in run defense where he wasn't gap sound that led to some positive rushes. And I'm not going to highlight a lot of those, but I will show a few plays where I thought he did well. This first one is going to be a screen pass to the bottom of the screen. And he does a good job of recognizing this and getting out to make the tackle. And you can see how lucky it is he makes this tackle, because if he doesn't, I mean, how many yards is this going for, Jonny? At least 20, maybe even more. And it ends up being a 1-yard loss. So that's a really good play by Oren Burks. This is one play that was a bad play. And there's some coverage adjustments you should make in this situation. And Slay doesn't make the coverage adjustments either. So I'm not going to say this is Burks' fault. They may just have been caught out on this. But typically what you want to do when you're playing a cover 3 kind of spot droppiness here a bit is when you get 3-by-1 with the 1 being an attached tight end, if he goes underneath, we don't really want our middle of field linebacker carrying number 3 vertically for this reason. It's just wide open. You would rather see him push down underneath and Slay take this vertical responsibility, because there's nobody that can threaten Slay vertically here. There's nothing except for number 3 coming across. So it makes sense to have Slay get over to this, but Slay doesn't really do that either. So maybe this is a communication thing. Maybe it's a thing they weren't comfortable doing with Burks on the field. Fortunately, it gets dropped, but that one could have been a big play. That's
a definite mistake. That there's a miscommunication error there. There's no way that's how it's meant to play out.
Yeah, that's that's an adjustment that should be made, and it doesn't look like Slay makes it either. So I'm not sure why, but that's something I would expect Washington to test. I showed this play earlier, but this is the double mug look where he's not able to get to the quarterback. And I just want you to see the slant that would probably be completed for the first down, I think, if it's not tipped. But from the back view, you can see that Oren Burks realizes Carter crashes to the right, and Burks just doesn't really have a rush path. And so good job by him just getting back and getting his hands up. I thought that was really good awareness. And then he had a really good tackle for loss on the goal line too, where he came through a run through untouched. Now, ultimately, the Rams would score, I think, on the next play. But I thought he had some good plays. Like I said, some rough reps and run defense, and you need that cleaned up next week. But overall, he played pretty well for a backup. He had 1 pressure on 6 pass rush attempts. He had 4 tackles, all of which were classified as defensive stops, which was tied with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for the highest on the team. He had an assist, and he only had the 1 missed tackle. So I thought it was a perfectly fine game for Oren Burks. If he plays at that level next week, I'll be really happy.
Yeah, I thought he played well, and I was disappointed last week because he didn't play well. And I came out saying, I think he'll be fine because he played well the previous 2 weeks. And then I looked like a mug because he was not very good last week. So I'm glad that he played better this week. Boy, random point. I think the Eagles coaching staff does a brilliant job at getting them to coach batting down passes this year. There's been quite a few occasions where the Eagles get into passing lanes and manage to knock it down when they know they're not going to get there. Right, let's finish this up, Shane. I will take my final point. It's more of a philosophical thing, actually. So I bet I was not alone. I was watching the game on Sunday, and I was watching the Rams on the second to last drive march down the field, and I was screaming at my TV going, why are we playing prevent? Why are we playing prevent? And maybe you disagree, Shane, but then I watched the film and went, oh, we're not. We're not playing prevent. We're playing the same coverage as we played all game. I basically think the problem is that NFL players are human beings, and human beings look at the scoreboard and go, do you know what I can't do now is give up a huge touchdown, especially in the snow. And I think individually, and in particular, Darius Slay, just started playing a bit too passive. And it's become a theme this year that in close situations at the end of games, this team plays a little bit too passively. And I think it's too basic to go there playing prevent defense. They weren't playing. They were playing single high half the time, Shane. Like that, they weren't playing passive. They weren't, playing like really deep coverage. I think the corners were just sitting too far off. And Fangio's come out and said that that's down to individual corners to decide where they're playing. I don't know if I fully believe that. And I don't know exactly where to portion blame out. But whether you blame Fangio or not, I would just say that either way, it was a disaster. And the Eagles could have very easily lost this game because of how bad they were at the end on defense. And as much as we praise this defense, with 4 minutes left, the game was basically over. And to give up that touchdown so easily was really concerning. And I think as a general philosophical point, this team needs to be more aggressive at the end of games, because the odds of them playing an NFC Championship game and a Super Bowl without having a close ending are unlikely. In one of those 2 games, maybe obviously this week, if it's the only game they play, you were going to think it might go down to the end. And the Eagles need to not panic and start playing really passively. I don't think it's a Vic Fangio thing. In fact, Fangio at the end of games this year quite a lot has blitzed the hell out of teams. I didn't see like quarters every coverage. I didn't see like 4 deep defenders miles back. I just saw single high and I saw Slay 2 deep. And they gave up, like, there was a comeback. I think it was second and like 10. And they just gave up like a 15-yard comeback. And it was like, oh, it's just too easy. So it didn't hurt them this week because they managed to squeak out of a win. But they very nearly lost because of how they played that final 4 minutes. And they've got to be very careful if they get in a similar situation. They do not do the same thing again. And we saw something similar last time we played Washington. And it ended with Jaden Daniels throwing the winning touchdown at the very, very end of the game. So I hope they are going to learn their lesson individually and philosophically and stay aggressive no matter how long is left.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I don't think it was prevent, but I didn't understand why they were playing so much single high coverage. When you're up by 13 with 4 minutes left, the other team obviously has to throw the football. Like this is the prime time for you to be playing split field looks and have safeties over the top everywhere. so you can protect your cornerbacks. Like I thought Slay was playing way too soft. But in his defense, he doesn't want to give up a big play, and he's on an island. So I thought that approach was just – I don't think Fangio went into, like, prevent, but I did find it really odd that they ran, like, single high coverage nearly every play in must-pass situations like that.
Yeah, we didn't get into that as a point, by the way, just because we can't get into everything every week, but we spoke about this in the Discord as well. They played so much single high. Whether that was a specific thing this week, they played so many reps of single high coverage this week. A little bit too much cover for my liking. Which sounds very strange, I'd have liked to have gone like more negative on the end and gone more split safety coverage and then told the corners to play really high up. But the Eagles didn't do that. And Slay was a little bit alone, and he did just play really soft. There was 2 occasions. I think he gave up 2 comebacks. And also, I said I wasn't going to mention it. Yes, the field probably played a role because Slade didn't want to fall over and slip in one-on-one. I do get it. But yeah, the Eagles can't do that again. The Eagles have got to be better than that if it goes down to the wire on Sunday.
For somebody that said they weren't going to talk about the snow, they sure talked
only
about
3 times. Only 3 times.
Yeah, so the Eagles played a middle field closed coverage on 56% of their snaps in the game. And on the year as a whole, it's been only 44%. So it was definitely a lot higher percentage.
Yeah, it was surprising, to be honest. It was surprising. But yeah, overall, weird defensive game. Numbers look bad, but they actually played pretty well schematically. I just think individually they made too many errors.
Yeah, there's a lot of balls bouncing the other direction when it came to 50-50 things. So, but then again, you also got a fumble that was just a dropped ball on a handoff, and then you got another punch-out fumble. So it's not like everything went their way, but there were a lot of those 50-50 things. There were some big drops the Rams had when they were open. So we circle back to the beginning of snow games suck. Let's stop having those in the playoffs. But I think that's going to about do it. Jonny, do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here? I want to make sure you got everything out you wanted to say.
No, I think I'm good. I'm looking forward. Yeah, for those of you just listening, as we've said it about 100 times, we've got to stop saying it really. But Patreon is what we're plugging at the moment. It's really good over there, and you can help support the show. It's the best way of supporting us, basically. Because for anyone who has a podcast, there's not a lot of income in podcasting, so we are using Patreon to help us because it does take time. And also, for those of you listening now, we're doing a Patreon live stream tomorrow. So if you want to hear us preview the Washington game, you can sign up for a free week trial and then cancel in a week if you must. That is okay if you want to listen to us tomorrow. So yeah, it's going to be a good one to preview because obviously we both watched Washington twice this year. So that gives us a lot to talk about. So I imagine it will be a pretty in-depth preview tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to do it. Thank you guys for joining us for this episode of On the Shane Page. We hope you enjoy the content. We hope we're back next week breaking down another victory over the Eagles. And then Jonny, we could do like a full preview show for a Super Bowl because we'd have a week in between. It'd be awesome. But
yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun instead of having to condense it all here. But appreciate all of you for joining live. Go check out the Eagles Pinpool Podcast Network. Go check out the Patreon at patreon.com/ontheshane-page. You can follow us both on Twitter. He is at Jonny Page 9. I'm at Shane Half NFL. And we'll catch you guys next time.